Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome to today's message. This one is for each and every one of us who struggles with a bit of anxiety from time to time, or maybe you live in it, which is definitely a place where I have definitely resided for much of my existence until I was becoming a bit more aware of it. And still it plays out quite a bit. It's my kind of emotion of choice where I go to when I'm less conscious and getting consumed by, different fears or insecurities or patterns of behaving that just don't really serve me if I'm wanting to thrive in my life. So maybe you can relate. So today I wanted to talk about how you can end anxiety by confronting the very things that you have been avoiding, right? Because what is anxiety? Anxiety is basically projecting a negative experience into your future experience, right? Like we are in this present moment being consumed by a negative perception or thought or belief that we are going to experience some form of pain in our future. And what happens is, and why I want to talk about avoidance today, is because I don't know about you, but this is my particular pattern. I can tend to not even know that I'm avoiding certain things. I just kind of put them to the end of the to-do list, and then maybe they just keep going to tomorrow's to-do list and the next days and the next days. And then I realize that I'm creating my own suffering because there's a level of like anxiety and energy drain going towards the things that I have been avoiding. And when we can recognize this sooner rather than later and catch ourselves when we're in that state of avoidance or handballing the responsibility of something important in our lives to our future self, we can actually start to recognize how that impacts us, how that affects us, and how much it's robbing us of the energy required to live a really meaningful, joyful experience right here, right now, which is in the only moment that actually truly exists, and stop running on that hamster wheel of creating anxiety through our avoidances of the things that we perceiving we should do or ought to do or really desire to do. Okay, and so this happened for me today. In my journaling today, I was having some kind of deep thoughts, and then I recognized that my energy was being distracted, right? So it was being distracted by a level of anxiety that had started creeping in because of certain things that were taking up more energy than they really require because I was avoiding them, all right? And so oftentimes what we do is we start avoiding things because we're chasing some sort of freedom. But the truth is, it's costing us our freedom when we continuously avoid things. And what's that old saying? The thing that you're avoiding is the very thing that will set you free, right? We get caught up going in the wrong direction by thinking, I don't want to have to deal with that. I'm just going to handball the responsibility of that to my future self at some later stage, and think and mistake and delude ourselves into a sense of freedom in that moment. But the truth is we're imprisoning ourselves and we're generating anxiety that is just going to snowball up until the point that we actually confront the very thing which we've been avoiding. And the challenge is that when we avoid something, it tends to snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets harder to face and deal with the longer down the timeline we've allowed that thing to generate more and more energy through our avoidance of it. And so whatever point you meet it and you become aware that the level of anxiety in your system is starting to outweigh the joy, the gratitude, the bliss, the love, all the great states, the happiness, the fulfillment that you want to be experiencing, that is the moment, no matter how far down the timeline, and ideally you're generating and practicing that and building that muscle so that you can catch your avoidances in the moment as soon as possible, so they're not robbing you of your potential and your freedom to enjoy life and choose your inner experience. Whatever moment you catch it is the right time to face it. And you know what I tend to do is, like I did today, I wrote a list. I clarified what are the things that I'm avoiding right now, and I actually wrote a little list, and the list felt a bit overwhelming, right? And when you get overwhelmed by the things that you have to do, it tends to set you down the path of avoidance yet again, right? It feels too hard to tackle. And so a strategy that I've learned that you might want to try in your own life is to just commit to scheduling in those things, those actions, right? I wrote this list of the things that I'd been avoiding: communication with certain people, different tasks that are important that I need to do, and I want to do because it'll move the needle forward in terms of a meaningful existence for myself. I wrote my list out, and then I went through that list and I just clarified realistically how much time would doing this thing need to take. And I kind of just jotted down next to it, okay, I need an hour for this. I need, you know, a couple of hours for this one. I need 15 minutes over here for this one. And then what I did was I went through the list and I prioritized what actually matters now. Is there some urgency on some of these things? Is there a thing that's taking up most of my energy and creating most of my anxiety? I'll focus on that. That becomes a higher priority. And now all of a sudden, I'm cutting through, right? I might have been overwhelmed by this big list, but now I've clarified precisely how much time it's going to take me, realistically, right? And then I've prioritized it so I can just go one at a time. You know, 1, 2, 3, too many is the way that we deal with things as human beings. So we want to mitigate against overwhelm through our ability and capacity to prioritize. And then the third step is to schedule it all into your calendar and then just follow through, right? Now you have taken what you've been avoiding because of overwhelm and lack of clarity, and you've prioritized it with some realism about time frames, and then you've scheduled it in, and now you just have to follow through one step at a time. Like in that great book, The One Thing, you know, you've got to earn your right to get to the next thing. You've got to start at step one. And when you only have to deal with one thing at a time and get through that thing before confronting the next thing, you will rewrite your old patterns of avoidance, and you'll be able to break through, and you'll be able to mitigate against overwhelming anxiety and energy drains and recapture all of that energy to direct in a much more conscious and freeing way. All right, it'll buy you your liberation and your freedom, and then you get to be at choice point as to how you experience this moment. And I'd personally opt for a bit of joy, a bit of gratitude, a bit of bliss, a bit of love, a bit of fulfillment, a bit of like clarity and centeredness. Whatever you choose is available to you, but not when you're running unconscious patterns of anxiety and handballing responsibility to some future self. All right, so really hope that today's message serves you. I definitely want to check in and say hi to you guys who've been able to join me today. So drop me a comment, let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And any of you guys currently watching, or you're going to catch the recording of this one, I'd love for you to share your words of wisdom, your experience. How do you deal with overwhelm, anxiety? Do you have some special strategies that might support our community here? And yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys, and also your experience, or even just how you deal with your own avoidances or how you see them coming through. Because when you share your personal experience, it triggers something for other people to see them, their own selves, in a new light, and can help them to gain clarity in their own system and potentially break through their own limiting patterns. So it's a real gift when you do share. All right, so just checking in. I want to say a big hi to Eddie. So good to see you, my friend. And Javier, holla to you from San Diego. Always appreciate you guys joining. And Graham's here as well. And Mona and Sarah. Awesome to see each and every one of you guys. I hope today's message has served you. I hope it resonated. I hope it hit you in the heart. And I hope it gave you a sense of deeper empowerment as to how you're going to choose to show up in this moment. Do what I did this morning. Write yourself a list and just check in. What is it in my life right now that I'm currently avoiding? All right. And then what, in order to overcome that avoidance and really face it with some action, what are the steps that I'd like to do? Then look at those steps realistically. How much time do you need to complete each one of those individually? Then prioritize it. What matters most? From 1 to however many things you got on that list, then schedule it in and follow through. All right, that's your ticket to freedom. You know, when we don't face the things that we avoid, they continue to stack. They just get bigger. They rob you of more of your energy. So the sooner you start is the better, the better. And it doesn't matter when you start, just start as soon as you have a moment of consciousness and tackle it one step at a time. All right, so much love to each and every one of you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Mwah.